LeBron James' wife and 2 associates named in federal PED investigation story that just recently came out, and it's got a lot of people saying, is LeBron doing GH, his young growth hormone? Is this the Lance Armstrong story that's about to come out, and they're going to strip him of all these different accolades that he has? So let's read it. LeBron James' close associate, Ernest Mims, business manager, and David Alexander, trainer, have been named an unredacted federal document related to the biogenesis scandal. However, there is no accusation or evidence of LeBron James using performance enhancement drugs in the reports. The biogenesis scandal previously implicated Major League Baseball players like Ryan Braun and Nelson Cruz, leading to suspensions for 21 players. Ernest Mims was cited for buying controlled substances for personal use, while David Alexander was listed as a Miami-based personal trainer for LeBron James' wife. LeBron James and other athletes were not directly named in the case, and James's representative stated that he had no prior knowledge of his name being referenced in biogenesis investigation. Now, Rob, can you pull up a picture with LeBron James? Let me read that to you. If you found that, let me just read that. A representative for James told ESPN that the Los Angeles Lakers had no knowledge he, his wife, or his associate were even referenced in a biogenesis investigation until approached by the media organization last year. ESPN's request to interview James and Mims were declined after they provided James's camp with applicable information to back up their questioning. It's clear ESPN's reporting on the subject took over years' worth of research. And while this is first needle-moving action involving the biogenesis case in several years, it's surely not going to be the last. Can you find a picture? Just Google, is LeBron James taking PED with his body? Tom, I'm going to go to you first because there's a story of this that came out with Peyton Manning. We had his neck accident. What are your thoughts on the story here with LeBron James and Peyton Manning?
Well, look, I mean, there's smoking guns here, but there is a huge economic interest of the NBA not to have your number one star have an issue like this. They saw what happened with A-Rod, Manny Ramirez, and how baseball took such black eyes. So there's a lot of economic interest in the NBA not to have this happen. But the other side of it, there appears to be a playbook here. Because when Peyton Manning hurt his neck, supposedly he was receiving certain substances that came to his wife. And I don't recall seeing Ashley kind of beef up or be bench pressing Honda Civics. And he had a very big medical need because they were trying to heal the fuse of the vertebrae on his neck, and he was having trouble doing that. And there was certain muscle deterioration that happened as a result of the surgery. And people said, well, if an average individual was using these things, I would be actually prescribing them. Unfortunately, he's an individual who is he makes a living where they have a book that says you can't use these things. So I think Deadspin have it right. You know, they call them WAGs, wives and girlfriends. Yeah. They've changed it this morning. They're now PAGs, and it's pharmaceutic girlfriends. So it's a completely different category now, where your wife is actually, not just supporting your career, she's supporting your career.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You think actually something's going to come out that LeBron's doing PED and he's going to get caught and the story's going to get public? You think they're going to take it to that level like they did with Lance Armstrong? Because they fully ganged up on Lance to destroy his legacy, right? And that's more of an individual sport. Yeah. It's slightly different. And one would say how much money and sponsorship is in cycling, although he probably brought a lot of attention to cycling, being the greatest cyclist of all time. Everybody was talking about it. And this is a behemoth of a league franchise. He's a face. This would be a black eye for the NBA, for his legacy, for being the greatest, for being all that. I have a complete different argument for this on what I think when I think about, by the way, did you find a picture of the guy? If you find a picture with LeBron on...
Because, Pat, your argument...
The picture, net, Pat, I'll answer your question. Yes, I think this is a smoking gun, but I think there's so much at stake for the NBA that they got to put the smoke out.
Well, zoom in on that. Zoom in on that picture right there. That's with Marcellus Wiley. Yeah. Okay.
Look, let's just start with the basics. LeBron is an absolute specimen of a human being. He is an absolute beast. Even in high school, the guy was massive. So if there's somebody that may not need to take steroids, it might be arguably the greatest physical athlete of all time. Now, do we know if he's actually doing or doing not? We know that he takes very good care of his body. Ironically, he played for the Heat. David Alexander, who is the trainer here, I've known him for years. He married a girl I went to high school with, Natasha. So I know these people. They're around. They're not random people in random basements selling drugs. He's a very famous Miami fitness trainer. He's not some low-key weird dude. So is Randy Mims. I don't know why they called him Ernest Mims, but he goes by Randy. I've seen him a million times in Miami. That's his business manager. Now, if he is doing something, it'd be pretty damn sloppy to put it in your wife's name. You've got literally so many people in your inner circle you're going to do this with. But David Alexander has trained LeBron. He's trained Dwayne Wade. He's trained Chris Paul. He's a G. I'm not saying that there's no there. I'm just saying this isn't the first time we've heard this conversation about LeBron. But at the end of the day, steroids or no steroids, he's still better than you. And he's still better than anybody in the NBA.
But he's getting older. But he's getting older, and to stay on the top, Adam. Right. If there's little cheating that you don't see,
sure.
the stuff like Tom was talking about, like we don't know. But I mean, to stay on top of your game and going up, Pat, what you said, like the amount of money, sponsors, and China
I have
is
a
involved.
whole different thing.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you. In basketball, okay, I played basketball. Being big and strong and bulky is not great for athleticism. You want to kind of be long and lean and in shape and have a little bit of muscle.
Yeah, but that's
now,
not
when it comes to
neither was Lance Armstrong. You're not doing it to be a bodybuilder. It's all because of speedy recovery.
Okay,
is what it's for. Lance Armstrong. You ever seen Lance? Can you put Lance Armstrong's body when he was cycling?
Oh my God,
it's not
veins.
about. It's got nothing to do with. It's about the fact that he's 39 years old, playing at the level that he's playing.
How many games in the season, Pat?
He plays about 70 to 75
That's
games.
a lot
He's
of
not
games.
an 82 guy. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
He doesn't play 82,
but where I was going with it, because when I think of steroids, I think of everything that we've discussed in the bodybuilding world.
That's not steroids.
Okay, so literally I've never done steroids.
That's not. Okay, for example, like you know how Joe Rogan says, "Hey, Rock, why don't you just come out and say you're on steroids, right? You're taking stuff."
Yeah.
It's like a little bit like, what are you doing?
We know.
Yeah, it's obvious. The people that have taken, they're like, "No, you're on something." It's very obvious. It's cool. It's okay. Here's my position with it. Yeah. Okay. You know how back in the days it was kind of like such and such smokes weed. Oh my God, smokes weed. He smokes weed. And then now it's like what? Such and such smokes weed. Okay, what do you want me to do, bro? Like you have a life. He smokes weed. Okay. They need to get over this fact that these guys are doing, like they need to legalize it already in sports. Stop it. Like absolutely stop it. What do you mean legalize it? You're saying that yes, they need to legalize, guys that are playing sports that are, putting their bodies through being hit, running nonstop. Yes, they need to take certain things that others are not going to take, like a Formula race car driver that's going 220 miles an hour. What do you think they're on to be able to handle that 2.5 hours of whatever they're doing? Their body's a different body. They're drinking Vault for sure.
Exactly.
Adderall.
No, but
they take Adderall.
They take Adderall. Okay, so for me, yeah, do I think LeBron's on things? Yes. Why? Everybody that's ever been close to LeBron has said how shitty of a diet he has. He eats cookies. He eats everything. You know when people eat everything shitty and they still look good? There's a reason for it. You can't get away with eating shitty things. You could get away with it in your early 20s. You can't get away with it in your 30s, 35, 38, 39. Body changes a little bit. And hey, LeBron, let me tell you, he's always eating cookies. He's always eating ice cream. He's always eating this. And you look like that, fine. There's a part that you say genetics. The other part of it is maybe something you're taking with your body. All I'm saying is I don't have a problem with athletes taking it. I don't have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. They're athletes. They're playing a different game. They're taking a different risk. Race car drivers put different kind of fuel in their cars. You don't put that in your car. I drive a 93 octane, whatever I put in my car. You put an 89 or an 87. Oh, my God, did you know Formula One, what kind of octane do they use in F1 or NASCAR?
They're exotic. They're like 115.
Oh, my God, they're cheating. They have to put 115 octane in those cars. They're risking their lives driving. You're worried about this guy putting steroids in his body. No. You should be worried about other things. Most of these guys, after they're done playing, you see how they walk when they're 60 years old? They walk in a certain way with their legs and their knees. Yeah. Trust me, they're going to be having a lot of issues later on. So I don't have a problem it being across the board that you're doing it. Just like they're trying to make, weed legal in certain things, I don't see it being an issue. But if it does come out today, and you're using it while it's illegal, guess what? You broke the rules. You broke the law. But later on, they need to kind of transition into making it illegal for athletes.
Have a league that's just all like steroid, whatever.
But it already is anyways. It's not like you have a league. By the way,
what percent of NBA players do you think right now are taking illegal substances?
I would say 80%
PED?
smoke weed.
Yeah.
80% smoke weed.
Are you saying weed or are you saying PED? Like things that...
Any substance that they're not supposed to do.
Well, weed...
would you consider weed being one of them or no?
Marijuana is definitely up there. They're definitely smoking weed.
I don't think you're putting weed.
No, not for performance.
Okay, so you're purely talking performance enhancement drug.
What percentage of NBA players?
I would say 20%.
I was going to say 35, maybe 30, 35. With that's sold
Now,
to the
ask me
radar.
about NFL.
NFL. What's
Ask me
NFL?
about NFL.
What? 70?
80%.
I was going to say.
But by the way, guess what? Do you see what they're doing? Like how fast and how?
Oh yeah.
What do you know how easy the average person they tackle you helmet to helmet, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be mandatory PED to be in the NFL.
Yeah,
isn't that an argument against maybe not doing steroids in the NFL? I mean, these guys are.
Yeah, but
what they do to their bodies.
Yeah, but recovery. I mean, they need. But he made a great point. To play in an NFL game and the recovery in 1 week. Think about it. In 1 week after you're having these giants hit you, I think it should be a no-brainer. They need the stuff to recover.
We've seen
faster.
a case study on this. You saw a little case study on this, and it's called Major League Baseball. Pat and I followed it. Major League Baseball had an era where their testing equipment was so bad, and their testing frequency was so bad, and your ability to travel every 6 days from place to place and to avoid testing was so good that you had literally baseball was powered by steroids. We all knew it was. It was the era of Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and Kevin Brown, the pitcher, and there were pitchers using it. Why did pitchers use it? They used it for one reason, recovery. Lance Armstrong, he was focused on EPO, and recovery. EPO, oxygen transport.
Every other cyclist was using it,
100%.
but they weren't big enough that, even with the same thing that he was using, they couldn't beat him.
Yeah.
But he lost his legacy with the whole thing. But every time people see him right now, they no longer say,
"You're the steroid guy."
Correct.
Remember the Live Strong, the yellow wristband?
He's a juice.
I
Pat, what
understand
happened
your
with
point that if it's so prevalent, make it legal. I don't know whether I agree with that or not. You guys probably have more opinions on sports than I do. But I don't think that the viewership of these professional leagues would accept it as easily, obviously, as the players and trainers. Because one of the fun parts of watching sports is watching human beings who are so much better than we are playing this athletic competition, and it just feels like cheating. It feels like, oh, are you actually doing that? Or are you only doing that because you have access to certain types of drugs that make you do it?
You bring up a great point.
I don't know if people would accept that, because think about how disappointed and devastated. It wasn't just a media hit job against Lance Armstrong. People were kind of disappointed because when you are a fan of sports, these players are your idols. You're like, if only you could live up to this. Kids want to be them. And then it's like, well, are you even real? It becomes like...
You bring up a great point because it's all optics. Like, for instance, I was like, oh, it makes you bigger and stronger and you're a musclehead, steroids. It's like, no, it's actually somewhat used for recovery. Oh, I genuinely didn't know that because I'm not actively playing any major sports. So if if I don't know that, think about the common fan. They're just like, he's on steroids. Oh my God, it's illegal. It's like, no, it's actually I sprained my ankle and I want to recover sooner. So there's a part to what you're saying that is so valid because what is the fan going to think? How's this going to taint it? Use the baseball analogy. We all remember what happened with Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. I think it's an absolute shame that arguably the greatest base player of all time, not named Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, is not in the Hall of Fame because he used steroids. But everyone in the league was using steroids at that time. And we all know that I think it was under the Bush administration, they were having court hearings, week-long, month-long, year-long investigations into steroids during the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah. It's like, get your priorities straight, guys.
And Rafael Palmeiro went in there, and he...
Yeah.
Would you guys be disappointed if you found out that Michael Jordan had a bionic leg? Like, would that disappoint you?
Like, there's nothing that's going to disappoint me about Michael Jordan. Like, did you see Air?
Leg? Like, it's something that it's not. It's it's metal, graphite. That it wasn't. He's not 100% human, basically.
Yeah. Would you be disappointed if you found out that the reason he could jump so high and dunk so much is because he wasn't fully
There's
human?
a couple different things here. You
I
know,
feel like that's how people would view it.
No, I don't know about that because to me, how many people in the world have a six-pack? How many people in America have a six-pack?
Well,
can you Google that, Rob, real quick?
Me and Tom, for sure.
Google what percentage of Americans have a six-pack. Can you do that?
And Pat,
I'm actually really curious. You'll see what point I'm making here right now. What percentage of Americans have a six-pack?
I'm going with 2%.
No way. It has to be.
I wonder if they have this.
Let's go 8%.
They should have it. So there it is. What is it? Number of Americans with six-packs.
1 in
25,000. Okay. I don't know if it's that high, but go see if go see if there's another study on that.
Six-pack of beer?
What percentage is it easier to be a millionaire or a six-pack? There's an article that says it's easier to be a millionaire than to have a six-pack. Okay.
That's bananas.
But here's the point. Okay. Can anybody have a six-pack?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course can anybody have a six-pack. So we don't look at these athletes and say they're doing things that we can't do. No. They're doing things that we don't want to do, okay? So that's one thing we respect them for because they're more disciplined to take care of their health. I respect the fact that LeBron is playing at 38, 39 years old with his body. There's a lot of guys that let their bodies go. Carmelo Anthony could have taken care of his body. They came at the same time, but Carmelo Anthony wasn't as disciplined with his body. You know, there was Antoine Walker, who was at one point an all-star, doing great things. I sat down and talked to the guy. When we sat down and talked to him, I'm like, Antoine, how did you become 400 pounds? He was 400 pounds when I sat him at a cigar lounge in Chicago because it's hard to take care of your health. So there's an element that we automatically think that these guys have God-given abilities and that's the only reason why they do what they do. It requires a lot more than just that. Yes, some people have it. But for example, you know, Michael Jordan versus Vince Carter. Vince Carter's a better dunker than Michael Jordan. How come Michael Jordan ended up becoming who he became and Vince Carter didn't? This is not easy. It's way more than just the physical side. It's the mental side. It's the discipline to go to the gym. That is why we respect them. I don't think we respect them to say, well, that guy's taking stuff and I'm not. I think that's a different element. But for me, the average person also, the same way the average person doesn't understand what an entrepreneur goes through when they start a company, and then they want to demonize the founder that started a company or the capitalist. They're like, yeah, look at him. He's got all this money. He goes to the nice restaurants, lives in the house, and da-da. Yeah, bro, did you work 100 hours a week for 20 years, Doc?
Yeah.
Why don't you go do it? Because you can do it too. You can work 100 hours a week. You can go out there and read books instead of watching every damn Netflix show. The last time I watched, the only series I've ever watched on my TV on Netflix is House of Cards. And I watched Lasso because Greg Sher told me Lasso reminds him of you. So I had to watch Ted Lasso a couple episodes to see it. But yes, I think it's very... I think the audience is not going to change. I think for me, it's purely recovery. And we have to understand that these guys' lives is a different lives than the one we're living. Not saying they don't have a great life. They have a great life, but it's very hard to do what they do.
And Pat, and you made a great point about Lance and how all these other guys were taking the same type of procedure that Lance was. But you know, people quickly forgot that his Live Strong, that bracelet cancer thing, he raised over $500 million for cancer research, treatment, and support, put $6.5 million of his own money. And it's just funny how he gets caught and they vilify him and they're like, the hell with him. He saved millions of lives.
You know what he does today? He's a podcaster.
He's a podcaster.
You know they made him step down. He resigned from Livestrong after the allegations.
Yeah. So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.